In football, everything is obvious after it happens. My goal is to make everything obvious before it happens. Week 7, Game 6 of the season, on the road versus Maryland, our first true road game of the season. I'm going to go over some plays of Maryland's offense and what they like to do. Maryland's offense is fairly simple. They don't mix it up a whole bunch. They do have a good quarterback, but primarily on offense, they're going to give the ball off on read option plays in the red zone, and then they'll run some outside zone running plays and dive plays, and then 90% of their offense is just throwing screens or quick outs to the flats and hoping a guy breaks a tackle. And then another small portion of their offense is deep shots. They'll throw the ball very deep, 40, 50 yards downfield, and they're actually pretty decent at connecting on those as well. So everything's either way behind the line of scrimmage with runs and screens and quick outs, or way deep. There's not a lot of middle of the field stuff, although their quarterback is a freshman, and sometimes he makes freshman mistakes. He is a good quarterback. He's got great ball placement. He's okay at reading defenses, but they try and protect him for the most part with their play calling, and we can dive into that. One of the ways that Maryland tries to protect their young quarterback is by having a simplified playbook so that there's not a ton of concepts run out of different formations. And one of the things that I've noticed on film is anytime they try and throw deep, they typically try and throw deep out of a condensed formation like this. Well, they'll bring in extra linemen, they'll bring in 2 tight ends, and these wide receivers will be 4 to 5 yards away from the tight end. They'll be really tight in the formation. And so they'll try and throw out of that set. Versus when they try and run, they'll have the wide receivers spread out. It'll look like a very similar formation with a lot of guys in the line of scrimmage and maybe 2 guys split out, but the split outs will be further away from the line of scrimmage, and that's because the offense is trying to create space for the running game inside. When they're trying to throw it deep, those wide receivers are condensed because they're playing a game with the safeties. So on these deep passing plays for Maryland, it's typically always play action out of these condensed sets. So that's a key for us to look at right away and say, okay, they're probably going to pass deep if they're in a condensed set versus the receivers are split out or they have 3 or 4 wide receivers out. But when they're in these condensed sets and they're passing, what they're going to try and do is run a 2-man route, and both receivers are going to go deep, but one of the receivers going to try and occupy the safety, and they're almost going to run like a very deep post or like a deep crosser. So we'll watch this play here as it develops, and we'll see this receiver at the top of the screen is going to run right at the safety right here. And he's hoping that the safety sees him in front of him and comes forward. And that's going to leave space behind the safety for this receiver here to run this deep post route. And then the quarterback can hit him. And it's almost like a deep crossing route. And they'll run it like a deep crosser as well. So they have a couple different deep concepts. But the main idea is just to get a guy on these deep crossing routes open and have somebody occupy the safety and then throw it behind that safety. Maryland does try and disguise or add a couple wrinkles to their condensed sets so it mixes up what they're doing, but they have tells as well. So we'll look at a couple different sets that look like they could be throwing deep or they could be running based on the previous tells, but I'll show you other things that kind of give away what they're doing with their play call. So this first one is under center, and it's a condensed set. There's 4 wide receivers, and they're really tight. That's the first giveaway. When Maryland wants to throw the ball deep, they bring in extra offensive linemen to give the quarterback extra protection and extra time. So by their formation, we get an idea, okay, we should look out for the deep pass, and then we see the receivers on the field and not extra linemen. We're like, okay, they're going to be ready to get the ball out quick because they want speed. They're not looking for extra protection. And so we can see that on this play here. Maryland's going to run a screen, and they want it to make them think that they're going to run it deep so they can either blitz and add pressure and then throw it behind them, or the defense backs off. And so they're really comfortable running this short passing game, and they want to take deep shots every once in a while, but they're aware they have tendencies, so they'll try and add these wrinkles. This is another one that looks like it could be a little confusing or another wrinkle. The wide receiver at the bottom here is split out far, and we talked about there being space, them liking to run the ball. They have the 2 tight end sets, but there's no wide receiver at the top of the screen to split out an extra linebacker or to pull a safety over, and they have a fullback in the middle of the field. So that kind of leads me to believe that this is going to be a deep pass again, and they end up going intermediate on this route. But Maryland doesn't use a fullback when they run. It's going to be those little details, like them not using a fullback, like them wanting to throw deep, like them having wide receivers on the field. They're going to give away what they're doing and help tip our defense off. So now that we have some good keys to look for in both the play action passing game and the deep passing game and the running game, we can focus on the biggest part of this Maryland offense, which is screens and quick passes. I would say 80% of their offense is getting the ball out quickly to guys in space, hoping they break tackles, and keeping the pressure off their offensive line and making so their quarterback doesn't have to make a lot of decisions. It's just good ball placement, get it out quick, let an athlete make a play in space. Maryland also doesn't just zone in on one guy in their short passing game. They do a good job spreading around to the tight end, 2 wide receivers, and a backup running back. And usually by the end of the day, like 10 to 15 guys have got a reception. So they really work a lot of different young guys in there, see if anybody can make a play. There's not one guy that we need to zone in on the short passing game. It's just watch the flats and the quick passes and just know that the ball is coming out quick and be ready to trigger and go downhill and make a play. All right, guys, that's it for the Maryland breakdown this week. Appreciate you hanging out with me. If you have time to like, share, subscribe, and then leave me any comments on content you guys want to see, any questions you have. I'd love to hear from you guys. It's obviously a new channel that I'm starting, so I want to hear what you guys like, what you don't like. Give me some feedback. And then for my prediction this week, I think Nebraska is going to win by 2 to 3 scores. I really think we open this game up. Maryland's got a nice record, but they haven't played the same strength of schedule that we have. Our team is very, very dominant, and I think this is going to be a very dominant performance and really open up our team, and we're going to embarrass Maryland on the road. Final prediction, I'm going to say 31-14. Go Big Red.